Hello, cinefans. I'm Kendall Coover, and this is Watching Classic Movies. Though he's appeared in over 200 films and television shows, for generations of fans, Cesar Romero will always be the Joker. While his series of guest appearances in the 1960s Batman show is undeniably memorable, there's a lot more to both Romero the man and the actor. My guest is Samuel Garza Bernstein, author of Cesar Romero, The Joker is Wild. We discussed the most fascinating performances of this elegant, underrated talent who always maintained the heights of his stardom and lived life to the fullest with remarkable kindness and positivity. Thank you for joining me today, Samuel. It's so good to see you.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
Now, you have such a fun resume. I mean, screenwriter, playwright, director, producer, actor, author. You've done all these things, you've won all these awards. What made you decide to go into biography, and why Cesar Romero?
Well, I've always been a fan of classic Hollywood. I mean, I was reading things when I was 6 and 7 years old that were about the studio years and really almost as if I was there. Like I knew these people, I knew these places. They just felt very familiar to me. And over the years, I've written about Hollywood, both in my screenplays and also I've written about Confidential magazine in the 1950s and turned that into a musical. So, a lot of Hollywood stuff. And my agent and I were talking one day and, about different ideas of who to write about. And it occurred to me that nobody had ever written about Cesar Romero. And I thought, that's just, before I started researching, I already knew a little bit about his life and how interesting it was. And then when I started, looking into it, I was just fascinated.
It is funny. I mean, there was a period in my kids' life where we watched the Batman movie every day. And
Every day. Whoa.
there was a summer, and I tolerated it because there were just so many little details and things, and Romero was part of it. But then not too long after that, watched The Devil as a Woman and saw him young. And I thought, the breadth of this man's career.
And just the dueling close-ups of Marlena Dietrich and
Yeah.
Cesar Romero with, like their cheekbones and that light. And you're just like mesmerizing.
Like the beauty of this man. But then he goes on and gets seasoned into a different kind of beauty, and Batman and Falcon Crest, which you go into a lot of detail with in your book.
Yeah.
How do you recommend his works? Like, what, because of the breadth of his career, what do you think people must see to understand this man?
Well, one of the most interesting performances to me is a movie that nobody remembers called Deep Waters. And he plays a Portuguese fisherman who, with Dana Andrews, sort of adopts a little boy. And it's so unconventional the way the storytelling is, and it's just so human. Of course, it was a big flop, but but it's something that I look at and you really see of what he was capable of. Not just the camp classic of Batman,
Right.
and not just the suave Latin lover of The Devil is a Woman or the dancer of, Weekend in Havana. There are these moments that he was able to bring so much humanity to the screen, which is also how I feel about his Shirley Temple movies, The Little Princess and Wee Willie Winkie. I mean, those were terribly reductive roles where he's playing sort of the exotic other chieftain, kind of, but he does it with so much humanity
Yeah.
and connects with Shirley Temple so believably that I think even with the looking back at it with a sense of, well, this is not exactly how we portray other cultures anymore,
Yeah.
but it's so human, and I think that's wonderful. In terms of his suaveness, it doesn't get any better than Ocean's 11. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he steals that movie clean out from underneath all the stars. He is so vibrant
Yeah.
and so cool. And I just love him in that movie.
That's interesting that you say that because a lot of the leads in that, it's kind of goofy and dated now. And there's nothing dated about him in that role. And
Nope.
just in general, he's not of the past in anything he
No,
does.
he really was somebody who lived very much in the present. And I think that survives even when you're looking at work that is old-fashioned or that is, certainly does not take into consideration the kinds of cultural nuances that we think of now. But it sort of doesn't matter because he's just bringing all of that sort of mindfulness and being in the moment. He brings that to everything he does.
It's almost like he put forward how he wanted to be reacted to, and the world just kind of played along.
Absolutely. And I kind of think that part of that may have been his privileged upbringing. Whatever we think about what being Latino may or may not have meant in the early part of the 20th century, he grew up very privileged, very much somebody who was able to have the world match his own desires. And when his father sort of lost all his money and Caesar suddenly had to be counted upon to support the family, I think he never really lost that sense of, well, I can make the world into whatever it is that I see it as. And that's a very powerful force to have. And of course, when you're 6'3" and charming and
Yeah.
graceful, beautiful, it doesn't hurt.
I mean, yeah, the way he aged, it makes me think of Cary Grant, but he almost takes it up
Absolutely.
another level where he just feels, it's right. You are so right. It is the feeling of privilege. He's so relaxed and comfortable in his own skin. He's not fighting for his life, even with, like with
Well,
old reviews with
yeah.
other stars.
Well, or when you compare him to one of his best friends, Joan Crawford, Joan Crawford came to Hollywood when she was 18 or 19 years old, and she wasn't anything. I mean, she was a person, but in terms of becoming kind of this personality, MGM helped her find who it was that she, could become. Cesar Romero was already doing quite well on Broadway, and he had a sense of himself, and he arrived in Hollywood from the very beginning, saying, I am somebody. And, when you've got that kind of confidence, it puts you in a different place than others.
Do you think that that's why? I mean, he was in some roles that come off as pretty racist today, but for the most part, it comes off pretty well. And he had a lot more success and didn't seem held back because of his race. Do you think that it is that, or was there something else at play there?
I think I do think that sense of his own, like, I have a place at the table, that was
Hmm.
never up for discussion.
Yeah,
That was never up for discussion. Certainly being so good looking helps. I
yeah,
mean, there is a passport that the beautiful get,
right.
where it can sort of be, I can go anywhere. Look at me. There's a I don't know if it's apocryphal, but there's a story that Paulette Goddard, who was the child of migrant farm workers, that when she was 16, she was picking strawberries and she suddenly thought to herself, I don't have to do this. I'm pretty. You know?
Yeah,
and, and she was quite right,
yeah.
She
It's
didn't have to
its
do that.
it's its own category. Yeah. What I love about that is that she told somebody who was doing her hair and makeup that too. You shouldn't be
Yeah.
doing this. You're pretty.
Yeah, yeah, like it's open to everybody as long as you're pretty. If you're not if
Right.
you're not pretty, then well, sorry. But and I think Caesar's curiosity about the world around him was also a big, big plus for him. And I think that's true for all of us, whatever age we are.
Yeah.
If somebody comes to you with an idea and says, "What do you think of this?" If you're like, I've been there, I've seen it all, I've done it all, what do I care? Or if you're like, "Oh, tell me about that." And Caesar was always a, tell me about that kind of guy. And, that makes people feel excited about working with him. So there was never a question of him being sort of too cool for school, as it were. And if he's going to show up and do Batman, then he's going to give it everything he has. The same with with Falcon Crest, where I mean it's all kind of silly and hyper soapy, and he's the Greek shipping magnate billionaire,
Yeah.
Peter Stavros. And it's of its moment, but he looked for the moments between him and Jane Wyman that were human, that were small and personal. And that elevated it, I feel. And that was because he was interested enough to look for those moments. He didn't just come and go, "Oh, I'm doing this soap and blah blah blah." He was like, "This is so exciting. I'm doing this." And let's do it.
I feel that in his interviews,
Oh yeah.
how he'll be in his Joker, makeup and
Yeah.
relaxed and elegant and 100% in. Like, okay, I'm not really into comics, but this is the Joker's backstory, and isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and there's just something so I'm so tired of irony and satire and and making fun of everything. I love genuine passion. And the people that I've written about, I mean, I've had these three books in a row, Joan Crawford, Cesar Romero, and I just finished a book about Roddy McDowell. And these are all people who are absolutely in it 100%. If they are going to do it, they are doing it. And they don't they phoned nothing in.
I mean, this is what makes this book so perfect for right now, because I do feel that there, out there is that feeling as well, that people are just tired of being tired of things. They want to embrace things. They want to be earnest and enjoy things. Just being on TikTok and seeing comments. I'm so tired of being tricked. I'm so tired of this. And just an increasing kindness that shows an acceptance of different things instead of joking about it, you
Well,
know?
that's the thing. I mean, if Caesar was of the mind that if you were going to tease somebody about something, you tease them about something that they're wonderful at. You tease somebody
You do write
beautiful
about
about
that, don't you?
something
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Don't go for the low-hanging fruit of, aiming your darts at people who are already down. And frankly, he was much more liable to make a joke about himself
Yeah.
than about somebody else. He wanted to include you in the joke, not make you the joke.
And I loved how he was so willing to share stories and enjoyed sharing stories with these younger co-stars.
Absolutely.
No, like I want to put it in the past, no cynicism about that as well. But at the same time, as we were saying, not living in the past. I don't know how this man does it, to be honest. He really, there's things we don't know inside, but he really is very impeccable in a
Absolutely.
lot of ways.
We're not necessarily entitled to know everything about
Right.
what somebody feels or what's their deepest fear. He was a public person, and I think I'm proud, frankly, to be perhaps the only one who's going to memorialize him in a book that really speaks to his achievements and what he gave to the world. That's what he put out there for us to look at. And he's a public figure, but he wasn't responsible for, foreign policy or
Right.
discovering medicine, breakthroughs or something. I don't think it warrants being too intrusive into his life. And there are certainly things that I discovered in letters and things that we all have our moments where we say things or feel things that that's it's okay. It's private.
Yeah. Right. And you do go into his personal life a little bit. You know enough about his family. You know why he didn't marry and why he couldn't be upfront about his sexuality. I thought you handled his emotional and perhaps romantic connection to Tyrone Power very well, because when you look at footage of the two of them together, you do see that there's beautiful chemistry and something wonderful was going on there. And you hope that he had something that brought him joy in that.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's also whether somebody's connection to somebody is physical, it is really not the be all and end all of the emotional meaning of it. And, I'm certainly of a generation where I feel very passionately and strongly that talking about someone being gay is not some kind of scandalous revelation. It's no different than talking about anyone's romantic life at this stage of the game. Of course, it would have been different in the 1950s,
Right, through
but
that lens.
no, but this is, there is nothing scandalous about the way that, Cesar Romero lived his life. And talking about what mattered to him is part of understanding him as a person. And it's really remarkable to me that he was lucky enough that all of the things that he loved doing made him sort of fed into the notion of him as Hollywood's most eligible bachelor because he
Yeah.
loved doing those things. He loved dancing. He loved going out to nightclubs with beautiful women. And it showed, so it
hmm
felt very genuine, very authentic. And he didn't have to play pretend quite as much as some of his other gay contemporaries had to, like, when you see Tab Hunter at an event with a woman, he just looks so uncomfortable.
Oh, you're
And,
right. Yeah.
and of course, half of that is he's uncomfortable because he doesn't like wearing a tux and he doesn't like being at a club and he doesn't like dancing and he doesn't like
Yeah.
any of it.
And
And
maybe didn't like the attention so much either. I think maybe Cesar Romero was a little more like I do enjoy
oh,
that
yeah.
spotlight. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was so funny when you see some of the footage from 1989 when the Batman, reboot came out and he was there at the premiere getting out of the limo. And I mean, did he steal the show? Like there in his tuxedo and everybody flashing pictures.
Yeah.
And he looked a lot more glamorous and interesting than Michael Keaton or Jack Nicholson did, I have to say.
I believe it. When you talk about the Golden Globe ceremony where Whoopi Goldberg comes up and like, there's Cesar Romero,
I
and
just
you
love
feel
that
it.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's into it, he's into it, Oprah's into it, everyone's into it. And I just can't tell you how much I value and respect that kind of, the commitment that he had to the whole business, to the art form, to all of it. And my thing about show business, which I've been involved with since I was 11 years old, basically, is that absolutely all of it is true. And absolutely all of it is a lie, all at the same time. And if you don't understand that, you don't understand show business at all. When somebody lies to the camera's face, like if they're on Good Morning America and they are lying, when they say it, they believe it. Like, it's the sincerity of it. They really do believe it. I mean, this is very parenthetical, but I remember years ago when Ellen DeGeneres and Anne Heche fell in love, and it was so shocking to everybody because Anne Heche was, supposedly this straight woman. And I saw them on Oprah and everybody getting like so like, such a kerfuffle. And I just thought to myself, oh my God, they don't understand. Anne Heche is an actress. She loves Ellen DeGeneres right now.
Yeah.
She loves this identity right now. But she will love someone else and a different identity next month. And that's not to say that actors can't fall in love for real. Of course they can. But there was something about the way that they were together that I was just like, oh, this is not
No, they're
permanent
not just off minding
wall.
their own business. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
mean, they were just like, and I don't think Ellen DeGeneres, could possibly have understood that the full force of Anne Heche and all of her artistic sense of herself, and she was a little crazy too, like the full force of that hit with such power, like, but it wasn't permanent. It was, it wasn't a permanent thing. And so that, but that is certainly a tangent.
But it's true that he didn't run that way. I mean,
No,
he had this respect for the game and didn't and it was like it wasn't about him personally, but he put himself personally into it anyway, and he knew how to weave that. What you're saying about it being true and a lie, he really did live that because it's like you see a movie, it doesn't have to be the truth, but it needs
right.
to have a certain truth.
That's right.
It needs to sit right, and that is him in a
Yeah.
nutshell.
And finding that level of comfort.
Yeah.
He wasn't a trained actor. It's not like he came to it from drama school or, the method or anything like that. But what he understood how to do was be present. And, like he could just, I'm here, I'm present. There's a story from the movie that he made with Doris Roberts where, she was very method. And they made this movie called Simple Justice. And they were like an Italian couple and puttering around the kitchen. And Doris Roberts is like, well, okay, so I'm going to do this because this is what I'm thinking and how I'm thinking, and my motivation is this. And what are you going to do? And he's like, well, the script says that I'm reading the paper and eating cereal. So I was thinking of reading the paper and eating cereal,
I love that so much.
and they liked kidding each other about that thing.
Yeah. They were lied about it. Yeah. No, I actually have that written down in that exact quote written down in my notes because I really did love that. I thought that said so much about how he just had it and he honed it. And
Um,
sometimes that's all there is to it if you have business being in front of a camera. But that thing about him just being there and being present, like I was just like, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. The one with the lion that flies, Zero
oh
Latitude, is that it?
God, Latitude Zero.
Latitude Zero. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, I love that kind of movie. People say it's bad. I don't even say so bad it's good. It if it entertains me, it's a good movie. Maybe it fails conventionally, but it's a good movie. But there's big giant bats, there's the lion flying around, and all this stuff, and he's so slick.
well, he's there, and Joseph Cotton's wife is playing his Patricia Medina is playing his like, his evil wife. And I mean that the special effects are ridiculous is
Yeah.
absolutely true. And it is also one of the only movies that he really did kind of bitch about.
Yeah.
'Cause he did give an interview where he was like, why should I have to go fly to, Japan and make this kind of crap? But even if he did feel that way about it, he still showed up and did the job. And he and Joseph Cotton, look, if they'd only knew that they were going to have that, oh God, what's it called? The Timber Tramps, I think, or something. They made this other really terrible movie in
Oh,
the
okay.
70s.
I don't,
In
yeah.
the, I mean, it makes Latitude Zero look fabulous. Let me
Well,
put it
then
that
I will check that out then. But
Oh, honestly, it isn't worth checking out.
no, no.
They have these little scenes. They're supposedly like the mean timber. It's not a mine. What do you call it? Anyway, where you chop timber down and like whatever that is.
Okay. No flying
Uh,
lions. All right.
like, they're the mean owners that are trying to like do nefarious things, but I think they shot it all in one morning, and it's all like from a long shot. And they're all just kind of like a little embarrassed to be there, I think. But anyway,
But yeah, I mean, just like there's this part where he goes, ha ha. And I was like, man, that's just so impeccable. Like this is so much better than this movie, but I am also enjoying this movie and it's just, yeah, all mixed together. Okay, so before I let you go, there's always an oddity or an interesting thing that people do in a career. And for me, the thing that I recently discovered that I was like, whoa, what is this? Is American Dental Association, I think, did a
The
PSA
haunted
called the
mouth.
Haunted Mouth in
Yeah.
1974. And as we were discussing before, we are about the generation where you wheel in the VCR or the projector and see it. But I don't recall seeing this. But apparently it has traumatized many a child, this haunted house way to make you clean your teeth. I don't,
Brush
how do
your
you
teeth.
describe this?
Well, I mean, it's really, I mean, and it's so dark because it's not just that, that I'm going to come and, these terrible things are going to happen to you, but, I know that you're going to promise that you're going to brush your teeth, but you're not. You're not going to do it. And,
Yeah,
like they're all going to fall out and I'm going to take them all and, and
yeah.
disaster will happen to you. And no matter what, that's what's going to happen. And I'm like, wow, this was
So I should
heavy.
jump in and say that Cesar Romero narrated this
Yes,
short, which has all these visuals of
right.
horror. And it's very Vincent Price coded, but in his own way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is actually the first time that I heard it, I kind of thought it was Vincent Price. And I was like, are they sure this? Because you go on these searches
Yeah.
because there's all kinds of stuff online that says that somebody was in this and they were in that, and they're not always.
Yeah.
Sometimes that information is wrong. And so when I was first listening, I was like, is this? And then it had the credit at the end. So it's like, oh, no, no, it is Cesar Romero. It's kind of incredibly nuts, like you just kind of go, in what universe did anybody think this was a good idea to show young children to terrify them into
Yeah.
brushing their teeth?
I gotta put it in
Uh,
the show notes. I gotta link it. It's on Internet Archive, so I'm gonna put it out there, but
yeah,
everybody should see it. But yeah, it really, and the thing is that he's so good in it. He brings it. This PSA for brushing and flossing your teeth, and
yeah.
he ramps up the horror. It is so effective. He really is scary. Like,
Yeah. I mean, he did this movie called Two for the Guillotine, where it's a very, I mean, it's kind of, you see the premise coming from, he's like a famous magician who accidentally, oops, like guillotined his wife. He still manages to kind of seem really genuinely frightening. Like
yes,
he commits to the idea. And part of looking at his life and looking at his work, you see a lot of outliers. And those are almost as interesting to me as the good stuff, because like you're not sure, like, could he ever really play despicable? And then you see a
hmm,
movie like Midas Run and you go, oh yeah,
yeah,
like he's horrible. I mean, he just plays a character with zero charm, zero, like, and it's gross and it's an ugly idea. And it's not so much that I would recommend people see the movie, but for me, in writing about him, it was really interesting to see, oh, yeah, he can do that. It's just he
yeah.
chose not to most of the time. But if the role really called for it, he was willing to go there.
I think that's my takeaway from this book was that not only did he contain multitudes, but he got to display so much of it. You really got to know what he was capable of doing, and I think what he wanted to offer.
It is very what was it, earnest, what you were saying.
Yeah,
It's very earnest. This is what I have to give you. Would
right.
you like it? Like
Totally. Yeah.
it,
And he got back this positive response and he kept going up to 2,000, 203 credits on Internet Movie Database. And every
oh,
one of them, I think he had joy. There was not a tired man. There was not a,
no,
desperate man. Like there were times he really needed to make that money to support his family,
absolutely.
but it was still, I'm
Well,
engaged.
and you see some of his later things where he had a thing on the Golden Girls, he had a thing on the Tracy Ullman show. These moments that were really, really nuanced, really interesting, really human, and not just coasting along on the kind of aging Latin lover thing that he was, frankly called upon to do a lot. When you're on Charlie's Angels, that's pretty much what they want you to do,
Yeah, all those hot shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Or there he is as an Arab sheik on Fantasy Island. I love the fact that he was any nationality that ever existed. They were like, oh, he can do it.
Yeah. And he made it great, and everything was dignified, which, is needed. So it was wonderful in that regard too. Well, you did a wonderful job with this book. I mean, it was I've noticed that people who write scripts write books that flow nicely a lot of the time.
And I write in present tense, which is
Yeah.
weird when you're writing about dead people, but to me, it's like telling a story.
Yes.
When you tell the story of, this thing that happened to you at lunch yesterday, you're always telling it in present tense. So I'm at the restaurant and this guy walks up and this happens. It's always you're telling the story that way. And of course, screenplays are present tense. And, I mean, they may have flashbacks, but even the flashbacks are in present tense. It's happening right now. And that to me is how I see, like when I watch these movies, when I watch these things, when I read their letters, when it all is happening in that moment in my mind. So that's a very organic thing to me to make it into that kind of present tense. You're there now. You're seeing it happen as he's seeing it happen. You're seeing it through his eyes. I hope that people enjoy that kind of way of telling someone's life story.
I think that is what makes it so fresh, and it fits him too. So there's those two things happening where it fits his persona and it makes it such an enjoyable read. And you really, I do recommend this book. It is really a wonderful, fun read. I really didn't put it down until it was done. And I thank you so much for coming to talk to me about it and just
Thank
sharing this
you.
wonderful man with us.
Thank you. And thank you for caring so much. I mean, your own passion is so present. The world needs that passion right now.
We all do. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
To learn more about Samuel Garza Bernstein and for a list of the films discussed, go to watchingclassicmovies.com. If you're enjoying the show, please rate and review wherever you listen. Thank you for listening. This is Kendall Cruver, watching classic movies. Until next time.